Good morning Year 4, and this is your literacy video for if you've got this booklet or this booklet on Wednesday the 3rd of February. I'm going to start by saying one very big well done, and that's to Jack for fantastic handwriting in his comprehension. Okay, so we start every lesson by looking at 6 high frequency words, and this week all of those words begin with a B sound. And we're going to think about those words today by playing a game of Snap. So on my board you'll see that I've got lots of different coloured cards, and behind the cards is one of our words. For example, here I've got the word bean, and you've now got to try and guess or remember where the other bean is. So I'm going to guess, there we go, that one's bear, so it can't be that one. Going to have to cover them up because I didn't find a matching pair. Now I want to hear you, even if you're at home, telling me which cards I've got to turn over to get a match. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one, bean. Can you remember where bean was? We've just seen that word. Well done, it's this one, isn't it? Brilliant. Okay, so we've got our first matching pair. Next one, I'm going to choose this one, B4. Where do we think the other B4 could be? Let's try this one. Oh, that one's began, not found a match. Let's try again. This one, back. Where could another back be? I think it might be here. Oh no, that one was because. Let's cover those back up. What about this one? Bear. Have we seen another bear yet? I don't think we have. Oh no, that one was back. I think we've seen another back. There we go, that's our second pair. Let's try this one, because. We've seen another because. That's it, that was down here, well remembered. This one, bear. Can you remember where bear is? Well done, nearly there now, Year 4. What about this one? Began. Have we seen began yet? Oh, no, them ones aren't to match. Okay, so let's try this one. Before, and our final match then, Year 4, began. Well done to those children who were shouting along at home. Okay, so we're going to start with this booklet first. And your learning question for today says, can I read and understand speech bubbles? And then I've put a question on my board, and we know it's a question because it's got a question mark at the end of it, and it says, what is a speech bubble? So I've had a go at drawing some different speech bubbles. Okay, so they might look a little bit different. They might be in different colours and different shapes, but they are all still speech bubbles, okay? And then I've also written another question. What is inside a speech bubble? And inside a speech bubble is what people say. So it's the words that come out of their mouths, okay? So here's a little example for you. So here we've got a little girl giving her dog a cuddle, and she says, I love my dog. They're the words that are coming out of her mouth. And here we've got a man that is waving, and he's saying hello. So they are the words that are coming out of the people's mouths. Okay, the words that they are actually saying. So what you've got to do today is you're going to have some pictures and you're going to have some sentences. And we've got two parts to our learning. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to read the sentence and then you're going to write over it using your best handwriting. So, I love swimming. And I'm now going to use my best handwriting and trace over those letters. I love swimming. Tracing over my letters to make sure it's the best handwriting that it can be. Because remember, my focus this week is handwriting. So I've read it, I've written over it, and now I've got to think, which person do we think is saying, I love swimming? Is it the pirate or is it the little girl? And let's have a look at what those people are doing. So the pirate is stood in front of his ship and the little girl is in the water. She's got a swimming cap on, she's got some goggles on her head and she's got a woggle like we use in our swimming lessons. So which of these two people do we think is saying, I love swimming? And now we're going to draw a line from the speech to the picture. Okay, so let's do the next one then. All aboard my ship. So I've read it. Now I'm going to trace over it. All aboard my ship. And now I've got to think, which person do we think is saying that? And it's going to be the pirate, so we'll draw a line to the pirate. So let's have a look in your booklet today then, Year 4, at what you've got to do. So you're going to turn to page 19. And it's called Who Said What? So we're thinking about what each of these people is saying. And you're going to trace over each sentence, so just like I did, write over it in your best handwriting and then draw a line to match the speech bubble to the right person. So you've got to think, who do we think is saying, I love sport? Do we think it's this little girl here who's got her cat? Or do we think it's this boy here that's wearing a football strip and is doing some kicky-ups? We're going to draw a line to match the speech to the picture. But you know I like to set you an extra challenge. So once you've done that, you're going to think about the next sentence that each person would say. So in my examples, I had a picture of a little girl who said, I love swimming. And now we're going to say why. So I love swimming. I enjoy putting scroll down a little bit. So I'm thinking about the next thing that that little girl would say. I love swimming. I enjoy putting my face in. Okay, so you've got to trace over each sentence. You've got to match it to the person, and then here in these spaces in between, you're going to write me the next thing that each person might say. Okay? So now we're going to move on to this booklet then. So if you've got this booklet, your learning question today says, can I read and understand scientific vocabulary in a text? So your text today has got a science focus on it. And the title is Habitats. And I want to see if you can guess, what do you think a habitat is? You can use my picture to help you. So what do you think a habitat is? Okay, so a habitat is an animal's or a plant's home, where they live. And I've put a house because that's our habitat, isn't it? That's where we live, in houses. Okay. Now we're going to do it a little bit differently today, because normally I pick out 4 words that you might not know the meaning of. But because our text is a scientific text, there are quite a few. So I'm going to read it to you today, a little bit different than normal. And we're going to talk about some of these scientific words as we read it. Okay. So the title is Habitats. A habitat is a place where a plant or animal lives. So we've just spoken about that, haven't we? It's a place where a plant or an animal lives. There are lots of different habitats. Different kinds of animals and plants live in each one. So you might get different animals living in, say, the ocean than what you would get living in the desert. Okay, so that's the first one we're going to be reading about then, and that's the desert. A desert is somewhere that doesn't get a lot of rain, so it's not like here. Okay, we get quite a lot of rain. In the desert, there isn't much rain. There aren't many plants. And it's difficult, and difficult means hard, and it's difficult for animals to live there. And it's difficult to live there because there isn't much water, and we all need water to live. Some desert habitats can get very hot, but others are very cold. One of the largest or biggest deserts in the world is the Sahara Desert in Africa. And remember, Africa is one of our 7 continents. Okay. So now let's read about tropical rainforests. Tropical rainforest habitats are found near the equator. And we've spoke a little bit about the equator before in geography. So if you imagine Earth as a sphere, and around the middle of Earth is that invisible line called the equator. And the closer to that line you are, the hotter the weather is in that country. Okay, so if you're close to the equator, it's going to be really, really hot. If you're further away, it's going to be really, really cold. Okay. They are really hot and they get a lot of rain. And there's a clue there, isn't there, in the title, Rainforest. The biggest, so again, the biggest tropical rainforest in the world is the Amazon. Rainforest trees are very tall. Some reach over 45 metres. Now, a metre is a unit of measure, and it's about this big. So if you stretch your arms as far as they go, that's about a metre, okay? And you've got to imagine 45 of those. So they're huge. Huge numbers of insects, birds, and other animals live in the tropical rainforest habitat. So these two are like opposites a little bit, aren't they? So here I've got a picture of a rainforest for you. You can see that it is like a big forest, like a wood. Okay, there are lots of trees. It's very green, and this one's even got a river running through it. Okay, but if we now have a little look at the desert, this one's completely different. You can see that there's no water. It's not green. Okay, so they are a little bit like the opposite. The rainforest gets lots of water. The desert doesn't. We've got two more habitats to read about then, Year 4. So the next one is the ocean. Remember, that's the water in between our continents. Oceans are very large areas of salt water. They can be warm or cold. The Pacific Ocean, so that's the name of an ocean, is the biggest ocean in the world. Ocean habitats are home to dolphins, corals, starfish, turtles, and many other living things. So here's an example of an ocean. So it's underneath the water. We can see lots of different animals and lots of plants down there as well. And our final one then, Year 4, is the urban habitat. An urban area is somewhere that has been built on by humans, like a town or a city. So Mia is classed as an urban habitat. Okay? Lots of people live in urban habitats, but animals like rats and pigeons, that's a very tricky spelling, have learned how to live in them too. So I know I've just read that to you, Year 4, but now I want you to have a read through, focusing on those words that I've highlighted to see if you can remember what they mean, because that's going to help you to answer today's questions. Okay, so question number 1. Why do you think it is difficult for animals to live in a desert habitat? Think about what there isn't much of in a desert, and you're just going to read the section about deserts there, Year 4, okay? Number 2, what is the biggest tropical rainforest in the world? So I'm going to focus on that word biggest in the tropical section. Once I've found biggest, I'm going to use that sentence to help me. The biggest tropical rainforest in the world is the... But I'm not going to tell you the answer. Give one difference between a desert and a rainforest. Now, we talked about that with my pictures. Okay, so what's the difference? Think about what this one has lots of and what this one doesn't have any of. What is an ocean? So again, let's go to the ocean section and see if we can find anything that tells us what an ocean is. An ocean is, does it tell us anywhere? Have a look. Copy it down once you've found it. Name 2 animals that live in an ocean habitat. Now, I don't want you to think of one yourself. I want you to find the ones that are written in the section about oceans. And remember, you're looking for animals. Okay. Got a big list of them down here. And we know that's a list because we've got commas in between each item. of habitat is the City of London. So now I'm going to use my skimming skills from yesterday to focus on finding that word city. Which section talks about city? Looking for that word, going really quickly. Remember, not reading every word. Found it, so what subheading is that under? And then your last one, can you think of another wild animal that has learned to live in an urban habitat? Now, because your question says, can you think of another? That means you can use your brain. You won't find the answer in the text. Okay? Now, once you've done that, you've also got a writing challenge here for. You know I like to set you an extra challenge, and I want you to write me a description of this habitat. So what habitat is it first of all? Okay, so it's an ocean, and I want you to describe this ocean to me. And finally, let's roll our dice to have a little reflect on the learning that we've done today. What number will we land on? Number 5. What could you have done differently? So it could be that you use the text more to help you. Or it could be that you do your very best handwriting. Or even extending your sentences in your challenge. Don't forget to take a picture of this and your extra writing challenge and send it to the Year 4 email address.